is Arkatsuke, and I'm going to be talking about Disgrace and Katie Way, the terrible women behind the Aziz Ansari smear. For this piece, I'm going to be focusing mostly on two women, one in particular. First off, because the 23-year-old emotional China doll who leveled the accusation against Aziz for not picking up her telepathic emojis is anonymous, I'm just going to refer to her as Disgrace. Second is 22-year-old Katie Way, staff writer and journalist for used tampon blog pretending to be news babe.net, although honestly calling her a journalist, terrible or otherwise, is a disservice to the profession, similarly to calling a preschool finger painter an artist. Since Disgrace lacks the moral fortitude to come forward, and is frankly unlikely to ever do so at this point, considering how heated the conversation has become, due in no small part to her own petty actions, but whatever. We aren't going to focus very much on her, because there isn't much to say other than this. Disgrace, as far as I'm concerned, you were just a cheap piece of meat with buyer's remorse. During rough sex, you need to be explicit about what you don't want to do. Your nonverbal cues of discomfort are meaningless and not the same thing as saying no. You consented and were forced to do nothing. You are totally irrelevant, except as a tabloid headline. Live with yourself. But just in case you might be tempted to think it's just some mean, problematic gay man hiding behind his avatar, trolling you, and you really have the moral high ground, here's award-winning female journalist and feminist Ashley Banfield slamming you harder than a twink in a leather bar.
That you threw out there, and I'm going to call them reckless and hollow. I cannot name you publicly and sentence you to a similar career hit as Ansari because you chose to remain anonymous. Lucky you. But as you grow in your photography career, I really do hope that you remember what you did to someone else's career, all because of that bad date that was not a sexual assault, that was not sexual harassment by your description. And I hope the next time you go on a bad date, you stand up sooner, you smooth out your dress, and you bloody well leave.
I've included a link to WebMD in the description for treating third-degree burns. Well, now on to the primary subject. Self-described, temporarily powerful, internet bitch, Katie Way. Oh God, I think I'm going to need antibacterial soap. Okay, so Katie Way is very young, writes a lot of expletive-filled things you could but probably shouldn't call articles on babe.net, a year-old spin-off of student journalist thing Tab Media, in which Rupert Woke Murdoch has a minority stake in. I'm not sure Katie knows that, though I'd love to see these girls rationalize his super progressive politics. Much has already been said about this woman's polemic, where she lumps Ansari's aggressive but still consensual sex with #MeToo harassment/rape. You've already heard one of HLN's anchors take on it, and honestly there isn't much more I could add to it. I could dig deep in Katie Way's shallow, uninspired writing style, her overwhelmingly trite subject matter, chronic lack of self-awareness, or pedantic mores. But she did all of this herself far more dramatically than I could by responding to HLN in an email that easily could be included in one of those SJW cringe compilations we all used to, and maybe every once in a while still do, watch. In her own words,
"It's an unequivocal no from me. The way your colleague, Ashley, someone I'm certain no one under the age of 45 has ever heard of, by the way, ripped into my source directly, was one of the lowest, most despicable things I've ever seen in my entire life. Shame on her. Shame on HLN. Ashley could have talked to me. She could have talked to my editor or my publication. But instead, she targeted a 23-year-old woman in one of the most vulnerable moments of her life, someone she's never effing met before, for a little attention. I hope the ratings were worth it. I hope the 500 retweets on the single news write-up made that burgundy lipstick, bad highlights, second-rate feminist has-been feel really relevant for a little while. She disgusts me. And I hope when she has more distance from the moment, she has enough of a conscience left to feel remotely ashamed. Doubt it, but still. Must be nice to piggyback off the fact that another woman was brave enough to speak up and add another dimension to the societal conversation about sexual assault. Grace wouldn't know how that feels because she struck out into this alone. Because she's the bravest person I've ever met. I would never go on your network. I would never even watch your network. No woman my age would ever watch your network. I will remember this for the rest of my career. I'm 22, and so far, not too shabby. And I will laugh the day you fold. If you could let Ashley know I said this, and that she is no holds barred, the reason, it'd be a real treat for me. Thanks, Katie.
Such eloquence and poise. And I totally did not just shamelessly rip off Ranting Monkey with that speed edit. I feel deep shame. but it was worth it. I'm most impressed by her self-awareness and how she doesn't do any of the things that she accused Ashley Banfield of doing, because she's clearly only wrote the story because it had to be said, and not because no one had ever heard of Babe.net before they attacked a male celebrity. And yes, Katie, it's only your deeply held moral convictions that will keep you off HLN, and not the fact that you're a glorified tabloid writer playing dress-up. Oh, to be 22 years old again and have no shame or accountability. Ashley Banfield, by the way, has already responded. Beautifully, I might add, reading several excerpts from the letter, best summing it up as demonstrating the caliber of journalist we're dealing with. I agree with Ashley. If you're going to attack a woman based on her appearance and age, you really don't have much of a claim to the mantle of feminism. Truthfully, Katie's ad hominems aren't really that interesting, being little more than the pressurized vitriol of a self-important little girl attacking a woman she is dwarfed by on every level. Her use of the label second-wave feminism as an insult is honestly more telling, echoing the Chinese Cultural Revolution, where older communists were purged for apparently being counter-revolutionary, i.e. less gullible than the younger Marxists raised on the Kool-Aid. This is as good as her outright saying she is a fourth-wave feminist, the latest and frothiest phase of the women's movement, which is obsessed to the point of mania with sexual harassment, as opposed to the aforementioned second wave of the 1960s, which was most concerned with ensuring legal parity with men. Essentially, this is a backhanded way, along with her critique of hair and makeup, to call Ashley Banfield old and out of touch. This is not uncommon, as feminists cannibalize each other more frequently than terrorists blow themselves up. We see this political intergenerational divide blazing even more intensely in Europe, as there, old guard feminists like Catherine Deneuve still have more sway, and are swatting down these misandrous, anti-sex intellectual children with greater effect. My point in bringing this all up is that this was the natural course for #MeToo to take, particularly with septic tanks like Babe.net getting involved. The women of Me Too are diverse, but the loudest ones are the young college students and recent grads like this Katie Way and most likely Disgrace. They have been spoon-fed an ideology that has made them so weak they can't say no and will consent, regret it, and then call it rape because they didn't really want to and you should have known even though I said yes, without a clear divide between rape and consensual sex, between flirting and harassment, and consent and whatever the hell non-verbal cues are. These kind of career-ending distortions from intellectually stunted girls will continue. As much mental gymnastics as the various feminist publications have tried to put forward about how problematic and irrelevant the backlash against Me Too, or the comically described backlash against the backlash, the visceral response of this case of #inspired overreach in the Aziz Ansari incident, aptly named by The Atlantic as 3,000 words of revenge porn, proves there are still neurons firing and some intact backbones left in society. I'm going to leave you with a few quotes I've taken from Katie Way, which are hilariously inappropriate because I don't think she can comprehend that she's talking about herself.
Participating in activism, or calling yourself an activist because you think it'll bolster your personal brand, isn't just gross. It's actually counterproductive to the cause you're claiming to support, whether or not you're doing it consciously. Celebrities aren't the only ones guilty of using activism as an aesthetic. Activism and protesting, or at least appearing of doing so, is honestly trendy as right now, especially in their cutest and most digestible forms.
Well said, Katie. Care to swallow your own bitter pill? This has been Our Cat's Gay. Like, subscribe, hate it, love it. You already watched it. You can't unwatch it. Thank you for watching.